What the research for Bomb Canada showed is that anti-Canadianism is nothing new. It's like the anti-Americanism that we see in Canada. It's nothing new amongst the American press. Anytime there's been huge policy differences between the two governments, it kind of tends to flare up a bit, and some papers or some outlets get a little bit indignant and bash Canada a little bit and that sort of thing. So that's nothing new. What's interesting now is that there is a Democratic government in the United States again. And so you might think to yourself, now it seems to be that maybe the United States is moving a little bit more towards what Canada is, in a sense. We have, President Obama talking about healthcare reform. We have, a lot of education, stimulus money, all of that sort of thing happening. So you think, okay, well, the differences aren't that great between, or may not become as great between Canada and the United States. But what's really interesting is that, yes, it may be a Democratic government that may be, quote unquote, a little bit more socialist than a Republican government would be. But what's happening is that we're seeing in the high-level positions, we're seeing the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, we're seeing the Homeland Security Secretary, Janet Napolitano, saying that, what, they're still saying the comments about Canada harboring terrorists. They're still saying that the 9/11 terrorists came from Canada, which the 9/11 Commission has said is blatantly false. There were none of the terrorists for 9/11 involved in those hijackings came from Canada. Even though that was in some of the initial reports that came in the American media, there were some mentions of that, but that's been disproven a long time ago. And so what we've got is these high-level officials now saying Canada harbors terrorists. You're almost entrenching in the American mindset. Now, not only do you have the American media saying this, you've also got the American government saying this, people who are highly respected. And so what does this do in terms of anti-Canadianism? What does this do in terms of the way that Americans think of Canada? And that's really interesting. We see the fortification of the northern border. And you kind of go, okay, well, a lot of Americans may think, well, if we're fortifying that border, there has to be a risk there. Why would our government be fortifying it if there were no risk? So I think we're seeing that. What does that mean for the future in terms of anti-Canadianism in the American press? It actually could mean that it may continue. What we do know is that no matter what, anti-Canadianism does flare up every few decades or so. So this can be expected to continue happening.